Postseason starts today. Who are the rookies and prospects to watch for in the wild card round? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On MLB Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in to Locked On MLB Prospects, your home for all things minor league baseball. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, award-winning freelance baseball writer and podcaster. Thank you for making this your first listen every single day. We're proudly part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And I want this to be your show. If you have show ideas, if you have questions from Monday's mailbag, tons of ways to get them to us. I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball, shows on Twitter at Locked On Farm. We have email, we have a subtext, we have a Discord. Lots of different options. We want to hear from you. The postseason begins today. The National League and the American League Wild Card series all kick off today. And in the National League, there are some rookies that are going to play really large parts in these matchups, right? In the National League, the number one rookie, it's the guy who's going to win Rookie of the Year, but it's Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks. In 155 games this year for Corbin Carroll, what he did is a little bit absurd, right? 285, 362, 506. He hit 25 home runs, had 65 extra base hits, including 10 triples. Full disclosure, I have not looked to see what the record is for triples in a year, but either way, 10 triples feels like it's an accomplishment. So shout out to Corbin Carroll for that. 54 of 59 on stolen bases, 57 walks to 125 strikeouts. It's really easy to say, yeah, Corbin Carroll is super important to the postseason hopes of the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he needs to have a good 2 or 3 games if they want to knock off the Milwaukee Brewers. But I think an underrated rookie for the Diamondbacks as far as his importance to this series is pitcher Brandon Pfaadt. He's been announced as the Game 1 starter because Zach Gowen and Merrill Kelly have thrown and they can't go in Game 1. And Brandon Pfaadt's stats don't look great. I think that's one of the reasons why people are concerned about this choice, and I'm here to tell you there's a little bit of hope. So Brandon Pfaadt on the season is 3-9 with a 5.72 ERA in 19 appearances, 18 starts. He's thrown 96 innings, 94 strikeouts to 26 walks. But I think a lot of what Brandon Pfaadt does has been skewed by, or I guess what his stats look like, have been skewed by a couple things. And one, he was really bad early. So in May and June combined, he had 6 starts. In May, he went 0-2 with an 8.37 ERA in 5 games, 22 runs and 23 2/3 innings. An adjustment period there, gave up 8 home runs. In June, he was 0-1. He gave up 6 runs in 2 innings, so the ERA of 27. But in the back half of the year, Brandon Pfaadt has been much better for everything minus the win-loss record, right? In the month of July, 0-1, 4.63 ERA. In the month of August, 1-3, 4.01 ERA. In the month of September, 2-2 with a 4.32 ERA. So Brandon Pfaadt has been much better in the second half of the year, something where he was allowing a batting average allowed of over 300 in May. In August, 228. Brandon Pfaadt has gotten much better in the back half of the year, and when he's been good in those wins, he has been really good. Those 3 wins, 1.10 ERA, 16 1/3 innings, 19 strikeouts to 2 walks, 1 home run allowed. The big things here for Brandon Pfaadt facing Milwaukee is he's going to have to limit the home runs, and he's going to have to limit, the walks haven't really been an issue for him. Even in his losses, he walked 11 guys in 40 innings. But it's the home runs. He's given up 12 home runs in his losses and 9 in his no decisions. So limiting the home runs will be a big thing for Brandon Pfaadt. And then obviously Corbin Carroll there, he can definitely help as well. For the Milwaukee Brewers, you're looking at, when you're talking about the rookies who are going to make a big impact on this series, you're looking at Frelick. He's been batting in the middle of the order. Sometimes they'll have him lead off. They'll have him bat fourth. They'll have him bat fifth. He's played some right. He's played some center. And I think Sal Frelick, one, he's a big thing there. And then two, fellow rookie Brice Turang. Those two guys together, they give you lefty hitting options in a lineup that doesn't have a ton of lefties. Christian Yelich is a lefty. Carlos Santana, when he plays first base, is a switch hitter. But other than that, you don't have a ton of lefty hitting options in this lineup. And so Sal Frelick and Brice Turang are two young players, two rookies that can be dynamic both defensively and offensively. And they're going to have good games if Milwaukee wants to make it through, beat Arizona, and make it to the next round. The other National League Wild Card series, Philadelphia Phillies versus Miami Marlins. I love that these two teams are matched up against one another because obviously they're division rivals. They've played each other plenty. They've seen each other a ton. And here, when you're looking at the rookies that are going to play a big part in this, for the Phillies, it starts off with center fielder Johan Rojas. We've talked about him on this show in the past, but him coming in and being able to not only be a fantastic defender in center field, but at least being able to carry his weight offensively, what that does for the Phillies, it's a cascading effect, right? When Johan Rojas can come in, and right now he's batting .302, .342, .430, and granted it's 59 games, so it's a smaller sample size, but it's he's due some regression. But when Johan Rojas can play center field at virtually an elite level, right? I mean, he's amazing in center field. When he can do that, and then he can carry his own offensively, he's not going to walk a ton, but he's hitting .302, he's able to contribute, he's got 13 extra base hits. What that does to this team's defense is it makes this defense much better. You can move Brandon Marsh to left, you can put Bryce Harper at first base, and you can make Kyle Schwarber your DH versus having to play him in the field. And when you can do that, your outfield defense is much better. Your first base play is much better with Bryce Harper at first base versus a Jake Cave or a Weston Wilson or somebody like that. And then it makes this lineup a little bit more dynamic because Schwarber plays better as the DH versus left field. Getting Harper in there is a big deal. So it does a lot. And I would look for Johan Rojas to probably, if they're smart, probably play every single day in center field, unless there's some sort of egregious matchup that they're trying to avoid when they face Miami. And when you're looking at Miami, this Miami team, and what rookies and prospects may contribute for them, unfortunately, Yuri Perez, he went on the IL September 20th with shoulder inflammation. I don't believe he's going to be available for this series. And so what you're looking at when it comes to rookies is second baseman Xavier Edwards. Luis Ariz has had some injury issues. He's been out for at least the last week. And so Xavier Edwards, who they got from the Rays last November via trade, he's the guy, he's been one of the primary fill-ins at second base. John Birdie's bounced around. He's played some third, he's played some second, he's played some outfield. He's a dynamic player. But Xavier Edwards has been the prospect that has stepped up and taken legitimate play time for the Miami Marlins and has been okay. He's not been amazing, but he's been okay. It's a limited sample. It's 30 games. It's 85 plate appearances. But he's batting .291, .325, .329. Not a lot of power. He's got 3 doubles. That's it. But he's able to play a pretty good defensive second base. He's better than Ariz, actually, at second base. As well as he's able to make contact and get on base. He's only struck out 14 times in those 30 games. He's not walking a ton, 3 walks. But he's able to put the ball in play and to play competent defense. And it gives you a nice fallback option if Luis Ariz is not able to go. In just a minute, let's get to the American League because there's a couple prospects that have a outsized impact on those series, including a key reliever in Texas. We'll do that next right here on Locked On MLB Prospects. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs I love these shorts, okay? They have these stretch khaki shorts. They're designed to fit slimmer in your thigh and your leg, so it gives you a sculpted look. You look really good. They fit, and they do the same thing as like Lululemon shorts, but they fit way better, and they're significantly cheaper. They also beat all of your regular shorts that are like that stiff kind of restricting cotton, because Bird Dogs invented this cloud knit fabric. It looks like khaki, but it stretches, so it's a way slimmer fit. You don't have to sacrifice movement, and they've got this anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. You can wear them just about anywhere. I've worn them to lunch. I've worn them to play golf. I wore them to help my son's t-ball team last week. Look for a scouting breakdown of them on the show soon. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB or enter promo code LockedOnMLB at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB for a free water bottle at checkout. You will not want to take your Bird Dogs off, I promise. Okay, so looking at the American League and these matchups, the Texas Rangers versus Tampa Bay Rays is an immediate one that jumps out to me because of the number of prospects and number of rookies in this matchup, right? At the Texas Rangers, Josh Jung, who was gunning for Rookie of the Year along with Gunnar Henderson until he got injured. But Josh Jung is going to be the guy. He bats in the middle of the lineup. He bats cleanup. He bats fifth. Something where you have a lot of lefty bats in this lineup. Corey Seager's a lefty. Nate Lowe's a lefty. Evan Carter, he's coming in the third segment. We talk about the prospects. Evan Carter is a lefty. Jonah Heim and Leody Taveras are switch hitters. And so Josh Jung being able to give you high quality at-bats from the right-hand side, as well as playing better than defense than we thought he was going to play at third base, does something where it helps stretch and strengthen the lineup, deepen the lineup, and makes it really hard for a team to try to bring in a reliever to get some of those lefties out, because you can stick those righties so off, because the righties that are in there, Dolis Garcia, Josh Jung, they're such good hitters, Marcus Semien, that it makes it really hard to stack up your bullpen to get a lefty for a matchup, right? That 3-batter-faced rule for relievers is big there. So Josh Jung gonna play an outside role. But another guy that's gonna play an outsized role, and not somebody that we've really talked about a bunch, is left-hand pitcher Cody Bradford. Okay, he's called up in May 15th, and the first thing he was asked to do when he was called up was to face the Atlanta Braves. And of course, he got blasted. And his numbers on the season don't look very good, right? 4-3, 5.30 ERA in 20 appearances, 8 starts. But when Cody Bradford went to the bullpen as a lefty reliever, he's been very good. So when you break this down by appearance type, right? He came in as a starter or came in as a reliever. As a starter, like I said, really struggled. 1-3, 6.95 ERA in 8 starts. Gave up 6 home runs, gave up 26 runs and 41 hits in 33 2/3 innings, right? 30 strikeouts, 11 walks. But as a reliever, Cody Bradford has been absolutely fantastic. 3-0 record, 2.82 ERA in 12 appearances. In those 22 1/3 innings, he's given up 7 runs, 21 strikeouts to 1 walk. The big thing here, like the Texas Rangers are a team that have had more blown saves from their bullpen than they've had saves from their bullpen. They are in desperate need of competence out of the bullpen. Now, Bradford's a guy, he's not going to be a starter in the postseason. You've got Jordan Montgomery, you've got Nathan Eovaldi, you've got Andrew Heaney, you've got Dane Dunning, you've got multiple options. But what Cody Bradford is going to be able to do is Cody Bradford's going to come into these games. He's going to be able to give you multiple innings if you lose a starter early. He's going to be able to get the ball in the zone. He's going to let guys put balls in play that your defense can scoop up, and he's not going to give up free base runners. So as long as you're competent on defense behind Cody Bradford, he's going to be able to, for the most part, keep the bases clear because he's not going to walk guys. And his batting average allowed as a reliever is only 188. So he is an option that can bridge you into the back half of that bullpen, because it feels like that's where you've really struggled. Is one, you've struggled with the Aroldis Chapman pitching back-to-back days. It never works out. It's a bad idea. But then you've struggled with trying to bridge in the midpoint of that bullpen. And I feel like Cody Bradford is a guy, doesn't have severe platoon splits. He's a guy that you can trust to come out. You can either use him in a 1 inning at a time outing and use him 2 or 3 times in a series, or you can have him come in, take a couple innings, and bridge into your high leverage relievers for the back half of the bullpen. Now, Rangers playing the Rays. Obviously, there are a ton of prospects on the Rays, ton of rookies on the Rays. And when you're looking at the rookies, because we're saving the prospects for segment 3. So when you're looking at the rookies, we're looking at guys like Oslevis Basabe, Curtis Mead. We saw a lot of moving around. We saw Basabe start at third on Friday, but we saw him get some time in the outfield after some defensive replacements. We saw Curtis Mead a little bit of time at second, a little bit of time at short. Again, after moving some guys around because of defensive replacements and things like that. And I'll remind you that shortstop has been the big issue for the Rays in the back half of the schedule. Taylor Walls can play the position. He's not been great. Junior Caminero, when he was called up, they eased him in with DH, and then they had him playing third, and they had him playing shortstop. They've had him leading off as well. We're going to get to Junior Caminero, obviously, in the prospect section, but lots of young guys here. And then you also need to look at Taj Bradley. When you think about who are your starters going to be in a 3-game series, Tyler Glasnow and Zach Eflin feel like they're pretty obvious shots for your 1 and 2. But then for your third starter, you have the option of Aaron Savali or Taj Bradley. And Bradley's stuff, given this point in the season and how much he has pitched, it's entirely possible that you say we're not going to start Bradley, and instead we're going to put him in the bullpen where he can let it eat in a 1-inning appearance. This bullpen has been used a lot recently. I want to say they threw 6 different guys on Saturday. They got through on Sunday only throwing, I think, 3 or 4 pitchers, but they have used a lot of guys out of this bullpen recently. And so being able to take the stuff of a Taj Bradley and sliding that into the bullpen is going to be absolutely crucial, because it's really good stuff. And this bullpen's a bullpen that needs reinforcements, because they've had, obviously, we know the Rays have had so many injuries at the major league level, especially in their pitching rotation, and then in their bullpen, having lost Garrett Clevenger and Jason Adams, Jeffrey Spring, Tree Rasmussen, Shane McClanahan, we can just keep going. There's tons of guys that they have lost. The other matchup is Twins versus Blue Jays. And I think the big kind of unknown thing here is, what is the status going to be of Royce Lewis? We've seen Royce Lewis. He hasn't had a ton of time this season in the majors. I want to say Royce Lewis has played something like 60 games, but he's batted over 300. He's had 15 home runs, including, feels like they've all been grand slams. And in a scenario where you've got Carlos Correa on the IL, you've got Royce Lewis on the IL, you've got Jose Miranda on the IL. It's a lot of left side of the infield options. And if Royce Lewis can make it back from the strained hamstring for this series, it really does a lot of work to deepen this lineup and give you options, because he's such a good hitter. And this is another lineup that has a lot of lefties. Edward Julian, obviously another impact rookie, but batting lefty. Alex Kirilloff bats lefty. Max Kepler's a lefty. Matt Wallner, another impact rookie, is a lefty. And Jorge Polanco's a switch hitter. And if you can get Royce Lewis back into the lineup, he gives you a potent power bat that is also a right-handed hitter that kind of helps you, again, balance the lineup and prevent teams from bringing in a lefty reliever for 3 specific guys, because you can stick the righties in there. They're playing the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays have had a really interesting year because they've done a lot of this with veteran talent, right? They've got a couple rookies right now. Davis Schneider's a guy who's played a lot of third base. He's played some second base for them. He's played a little bit of outfield for them. But for the most part, they've made this work with veterans. And I think the big question is going to be, do they take somebody younger like a Wes Parsons, use him in the bullpen to reinforce that back half of the bullpen? I don't know what happens for the Toronto Blue Jays. But either way, Davis Schneider feels, especially if they're not getting the contributions that they really haven't been getting all season from Matt Chapman, he feels like a guy who's incredibly valuable in the postseason roster because Davis Schneider can play third, he can play second, he can play some outfield. Very useful skill set to have and very important for them to have. In just a minute, I've picked out 4 prospects that I think could be X factors in the postseason. We'll get to them next right here on Locked On MLB Prospects. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The copy they gave us is about the NFL because NFL is back and you can get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose, when you place a $5 bet with FanDuel. But I'm going to ignore their copy because this is the MLB postseason. And when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now, you can see all the odds for these series right here. The Rays are favored over the Rangers. The Twins are favored over the Blue Jays. Going back to the National League, the Phillies are favored over the Marlins. The winner of that series has to face the Braves. So it's a divisional matchup in the wild card round. It'll be a divisional matchup in the NLDS. Brewers versus Diamondbacks. The Brewers are favored there. The winner of that series goes on to play the Los Angeles Dodgers. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get your picks in for the MLB postseason with FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. Okay, so we've talked about the postseason matchups. We've talked about some of the impact rookies, but there's 4 prospects that I've picked out that could be X factors in the wild card round. The first one, I've already talked about him a couple different times, but Junior Caminero hit his first home run for the Tampa Bay Rays the other day. Like I said, they've had him playing third. They've had him playing short. He's been leading off, something where they eased him in. He DH'd a couple times, and then they threw him right into the fire. But so far, he has delivered. Junior Caminero, if he has a strong wild card round, Tampa Bay probably advances. I know that FanDuel has them favored, but it just feels like that's probably the X factor there for Tampa Bay is, can they get him to produce? And obviously, you've got a little bit of, there's other prospects there as well, like Curtis Mead, Royce Lewis, Basabe, other rookies and things like that. But Junior Caminero is really the X factor in Tampa Bay. The other side of that matchup is Evan Carter in center field for the Texas Rangers. And this is something where the Rangers have had, it feels like they haven't been able to get great contributions all across the outfield. When he's been healthy, Adolis Garcia has been really good. Leody Taveras has had a very surprising year, but Evan Carter is going to end up being very important for this lineup because, one, the defense that he's able to provide is so fantastic, right? His defense is he's probably one of the better defensive outfielders in this wild card round. And so having Evan Carter out there, one, helps with run prevention. You're playing a Tampa Bay team that likes to put the ball into play. But then also his burning power potential. He's played a lot of left field while Taveras is in center. I still think that Evan Carter can give you a little more power than you've seen so far. And Evan Carter, to me, him having a big series, both on the base paths and at the plate, can do a lot to help the Texas Rangers upset the Tampa Bay Rays. The other prospects to watch over in the National League, the Arizona Diamondbacks have not given a lot of playing time to Jordan Lawlar since they called him up. Going back and looking over the last week, I think he got one start, and that was Sunday after they were already locked into the postseason. And, you know, half the lineup got the day off. Corbin Carroll was off. Ketel Marte didn't play. Christian Walker didn't play. Gabe Moreno didn't play. Like, they gave a lot of guys the day off. But Jordan Lawlar, to me, is probably one of the better defenders on this team, especially in the infield. It's him and Gerardo Perdomo. But I also feel like Lawlar has the ability to give you more pop off the bench than a guy like a Perdomo does. I could very much see in a crucial late inning at bat, Jordan Lawlar is the pinch hitter for Geraldo Perdomo, and or when he put in as a defensive replacement, stays in the game as a defensive replacement, and him having a big series will absolutely help. And then the confidence that he can gain from a successful stint in the playoffs can definitely help as they try to go for back-to-back Rookies of the Year, because I do feel like Corbin Carroll's pretty much a lock in the National League for Rookie of the Year. And then the other National League matchup, I feel like the wild card here, a guy we talked about last week, but Phillies reliever Orion Kerkering. He has that amazing slider, that sweeper that's harder than any other sweeper and gets more break than any other sweeper. But when you look at this bullpen for the Philadelphia Phillies, they needed so much help, they moved Michael Lorenzen back into the bullpen. You have a lot of guys who have thrown a lot of innings on Saturday. Orion Kerkering threw 25 pitches, but they use Jeff Hoffman, they use Jose Alvarado, they use Craig Kimbrell. And Kimbrell's a guy they've really hesitated to use in back-to-back outings. And so when you're looking at, okay, how much trust do we have in Jeff Hoffman? How much trust do we have in Gregory Soto? Or even Jose Alvarado? How much trust do we have in some of these guys? Orion Kerkering gives us an option. Yes, we've seen him throw 3 times at the major league level, but each one of them, he was able to go 20-something pitches. Each one of them, he showed fantastic swing and miss stuff. And so if you get into a jam where you have to get strikeouts, you need guys to not put the ball in play, you need to get strikeouts. Orion Kerkering feels like he could be that emergency call in the 5th inning, in the 6th inning, like, hey, there's runners on 2nd and 3rd and 1 out. We need you to go get us 2 punchies so we can take it back to the dugout. Orion Kerkering feels like he has the potential to come in and make a massive impact for the Philadelphia Phillies as they try to hold off the Miami Marlins so they can get a revenge shot at the Atlanta Braves. Fantastic week this week. We've got more stuff coming up. Arizona Fall League kicked off last night. We're going to be recapping that next week. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about some of the best performances in minor league baseball this season now that all of the minor league stuff, including the postseason, is done. We're going to, lots of other fun stuff coming up. And if you have questions for the show, ideas, things like that, I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. Show's on Twitter at Locked On Farm. Tons of ways to get them to us. So make sure you reach out and do that. It's all in the episode description and in the show notes. But until next time, remember, it's always a great time to pay a minor leaguer.